Hey there, I am so glad you're here. Come on in and enjoy Coffee Chat at the Cubby Hole. Okay, you might be thinking, coffee sounds fun, but girl, what is the Cubby Hole? The Cubby Hole was a divine little nudge on my heart, if you will, to build this space in our basement, in our home, where our friends and family could come and receive encouragement and love. And that's exactly what we've been doing. I've always known that the Cubby Hole would have a ripple effect out into the world, that it could bring encouragement and hope, not just to people that could visit here in person. That is exactly why I do Coffee Chats. I get to take some of the coolest people that are just like you and just like me, who have skill and talent, but most importantly, they have a vulnerable, relatable story that we can all glean some hope and encouragement from. So grab a coffee, cozy up, and enjoy Coffee Chats at the Cubby Hole. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Chats at the Cubby Hole. I'm so glad you're able to join us. I can't wait to bring in my guest today. My special guest is Vickie Gould. She is an incredible lady. She has so much to share. You know, I have to ask you, have you ever thought of writing a book? I talk to so many people that they know they have a book inside of them, but they're terrified. They don't know where to begin, overwhelmed. She's going to talk about that and so much more. One of the other things that we're going to talk about, and I love this because it's the month of November, and I love just the concept of thankfulness all year long, of course, but in the month of November, that's the theme, that's the focus. And we're going to talk about Vickie's journey with the diagnosis that she received a long while back of Lyme disease and how she has journeyed through. And if you saw my promo for her yesterday, we talked about how she wears high heels as a celebration of surviving, overcoming all that having Lyme disease has entailed. You have probably, you might have heard of her. You might have seen her on ABC, NBC, CBS. She has done TED Talks. She just travels and gets to go everywhere, and she runs her own workshops, just inspiring people everywhere to write their book, talking about life coaching lessons. She is a brilliant woman. I was saying yesterday that the first time we met in person, we talked for 5 hours. She is so insightful, and it's such a joy to talk with her. So without further ado, let me bring her in. My friend from right down the road, Vickie Gould. Good morning, girl. How are you?
Good morning, Marlo. So good to see you. Wish we were in person.
Yes, I know. We have to get together in person again. I love that. That first time we met. I know you were talking about that too. We could have just kept going, but I think our family's like, where are you guys?
We would have talked until midnight or beyond, probably.
I think the coffee shop was starting to look at us and they were starting to close up. But thank you so much for joining me. I am so delighted that you're here with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to everybody.
Yeah, so where I would love to start, there's so much to share with you, girl. But where I would love to start is I want to just jump into what we talked for a long time about, and it's a story that's been very prevalent in your life, is your journey with a chronic disease, Lyme disease. And I learned from listening to you that it's pronounced Lyme, not limes, and it is not an allergy to limes. Tell us about that journey, what it's been like, and what you've learned.
Yeah, wow, that's a big question. So back in 2009, I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease after being misdiagnosed with a lot of other things. Like I was misdiagnosed with lupus, early onset perimenopause, early onset osteoarthritis, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. You know, the early onset parts, I was like, geez, that's really awesome. I'm just so precocious. You know, I just have all this early stuff. And something in me kept saying that these diagnoses, they're not right. At the time, I was a jewelry artist, and I was doing a lot with my hands. And it became so that I couldn't use them anymore. And this right hand just started to really just I guess in a sense, seize up. And that's when I first went to the doctor, and they're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. And that's usually what people say, like they get from the doctors is, oh, it's in your head, especially with women. When you have like things like chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, where like they really can't pinpoint the stuff, you get told that it's in your head. And it was a time in my life where I really had to trust my own instincts.
Right.
I could have just went, okay, great, I got lupus, let's do something about that. But there was something about that just didn't sit right with me. And so I kept searching and searching. And luckily for me, I was not like other Lyme disease patients where they had their misdiagnoses for like decades.
Right.
I had the diagnosis of lupus, but it was the fall of that same year that I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease. And I actually thought at the time, I'm like, yay, we have the right name. Now we know what it is. We can do something about it. Little did I know there's no protocol. There's no cure. They don't know what to do with you. And health insurance won't cover it. So I remember thinking, gosh, you know, am I gonna be able to deal with this? And that's when the doctor, he like kind of, this one day I went, he just kind of swung around his little swivel chair. He looked me straight in the eye. He's like, Vickie, you gotta stop thinking that you're gonna fix this. You're gonna have to suck it up. And this is how life is gonna be for the next however many years you've got.
Wow.
You're gonna be in bed forever.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And I was like,
what did you say? How do you even respond to that? What did you say? What did you do?
I don't think I said anything at the time. Because I'm the type of person that just likes to go out, investigate and research and learn and things like that. So I'd bring stuff to him. And I think he was frustrated with my continuing to bring different protocols or suggestions or say, well, I think we should be able to fix this, or we should be able to fix this symptom or whatever. And he was just like, stop. You just need to stop. This is how life is going to be, and deal with it. Yeah. And I remember I came home and I called my sister and I said, you know what, if this disease takes me, then you have to promise me that you're going to tell my kids what I was all about, what I wanted to teach them, what I haven't been able to teach them, what I wanted for them in their life. Because, you know, I was too tired, too much in pain to do anything. I used to be the mom, the super mom. Went to every single field trip, went to every school party, volunteered for stuff. You know, I painted full murals in rooms at my church. I volunteered for everything. And there came a time when I couldn't even lift the babies in the nursery. And I said, you can't assign me here because I'm going to drop them. And I'm terrified I'm going to drop them because I couldn't do it. And it came to a point where I started to contemplate taking my own life. And I thought, if there's no quality and I can't live and I can't do the things that I want to do, then I might as well not be here, because I can't even take care of my own children. I can't even clean the bathroom. I can't even finish making a meal. And yeah, my little guy, he'd come up and he's like, Mama, can you go to my school party? And he looked so hopeful and everything. I'm like, baby, I'm so sorry, Mama can't. I'm just not up to it. And he would first look so hopeful and then look so sad. But he was also so used to the response as well.
Right.
You know,
go ahead. I was going to ask what was your next step from there? But go ahead and finish that thought.
No, I was just going to say he'd climb up and snuggle with me and watch TV, and you know that was the thing we would be able to do together. We could watch cartoons together, and that was pretty much it. And what was your question at that time? What was
your next step from there? What was, because you've been on the road to overcoming it, if you will. I want to show your video where you talk about it, but what was your next step? How did you?
I wish I could say that I just and all of a sudden all this, you know, sparkles and stuff came out of the sky, and I got real hopeful and God released me, but that wasn't what happened. I went into a spiral of bitterness and regret and anger and, you know, questioning, why is this happening to me? What did I do? Why am I being punished? Wasn't I a good person? Haven't I lived a decent life?
Right.
What was it supposed to be?
The why questions. Yes.
Yeah. And I all of my life, I've always put myself last. I think we as women tend to do that. After the kids get a little older, after the kids graduate from high school, after, you know, and everything's after. And I had always had these dreams of going to Paris, traveling the world and stuff like that. But we just, we didn't have the money to tromp all over the place. And then, the kids, we had 3 kids, and I'm thinking, all right, after they're grown, after whatever. And it seemed to me at that time that there was no going to be an after.
Mm-hmm.
There was no going to be a later for me, because I had squandered away that time, and I was destined to just be in bed. I couldn't even imagine getting into an airplane, traveling, staying in one position for that long, and the pain that would happen from just being in the airplane and then, not being comfortable. Whenever you travel, the bed's never comfortable.
Right. And then with a chronic disease, that's not helpful.
Yeah. And so I'm like, this is just never going to happen. And I'm like, if this is never going to happen, and none of the dreams that I was waiting to go do in my life are ever going to happen, then what's the purpose? What's the reason? And I got angry at my husband because, I was convinced that I had gotten Lyme, because he loves to be outdoors, and we had been camping, and, we were living on 13 acres and, all that stuff. And I'm like, if it hadn't been for it, I'd be a city girl,
Right.
It's still not true though, that you only get Lyme in the country. Like, that's just not a thing. People get it in the city, in the middle of New York City, so that's a misconception as well. But yeah, I wish I could say I was always hopeful and I was always smiling, but I wasn't. I was kind of mean sometimes, and I was angry.
Understandable. You're human. How long from when you had that diagnosis given to you to when you started to see change, and what caused the change? Obviously you were your own advocate.
Yeah.
I've heard so much from women or people that I talk to on the show. It's just so important. We're thankful for doctors, of course, but sometimes you have to be your own advocate.
Right. You really
do so much. And I can't imagine that side of it either, but just to be your own advocate and do the research. What happened? What was the turn?
Gosh, it really wasn't like something one day just changed. I think I kind of grew into it, where I kind of got sick of it. I got sick of myself. I got sick of all of the stuff that it had to do with. And I said, you know what, Vickie, you've got to make a choice. You either have to learn to accept this, or you're going to have to figure it out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, I kept trying to convince myself to accept it. Just accept it. This is the way life was supposed to be. This is your destiny.
Yeah.
This, blah, blah, blah.
They said it can't be changed. And boy.
Right. And so I convinced myself. Didn't work really. Like, that would stick for a very short time. And then I'd be like, ugh. And then I'd be angry again. And you're like, why can't I be better? Why can't this be something else? Why can't they figure it out? And then I'm like, am I going to sit around and wait for decades for them to figure out this disease that, they won't even give money for the research because they don't believe it exists.
Wow.
And so I did a lot of like alternative protocols, research on herbs and stuff like that. Things that I told my doctor, and then other things that I never told him that I did, because he got tired of listening to it. Right. So I did a lot of crazy things. Eventually, when people say, well, what's the steps? I can't really tell you, because I just threw stuff at it. And I'm like, okay, is this working? Is that working? I could probably point out some things that I can for sure say helped, but I can't say it was like, you do this first, and then you do this next, and then you do that. I became a master herbalist in the meantime, because I thought, gosh, if I'm going to research all this stuff, I might as well make it into something.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I started thinking, you know what, maybe this journey was because I'm supposed to go out there and heal the world. I'm going to cure Lyme disease. This is what God had in mind. I'm just going to be the poster child, and I'm going to help everybody. That really wasn't what it was. He was probably laughing when I was like, yeah, I think I got it. I understand now. Like, oh, not really. That's not it, but you'll figure it out.
So there wasn't a concrete, and just becoming a master herbalist is so cool. I hear that so often, when people are advocating for themselves and they start to delve into herbs and other alternative remedies, which is, of course, always important to follow your doctor's advice, but then to do the research. We just talked about that a couple weeks ago here on Coffee Chat. So, oh my gosh. Well, you are an overcomer, and you are thriving these days.
I am doing pretty good. Yep. I still do a lot of maintenance. One of the things that my friends always tease me about is how long I spend in the bathtub. So right before we got on, I was in the bathtub. And I soak in the bathtub because my muscles, the joints, with Lyme disease and stuff, it goes and it burrows in your joints, and you have a lot of arthritic type of problems and aches and pains. And so I tend to love my bath. And then when I read that, sitting in the bath is like 170 calories, I'm like, more power to me, right? I don't remember how long. I know. I don't remember how long I'm supposed to be in there, but my friends joke with me because I'll answer the phone while I'm in there, and they're like, "It's echoing. Are you in the bathtub?" My sister's like, "Are you in the bathtub again?" Yes, I am. And sometimes I'll stay in there for 2 hours. I'll just put more hot water in it.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. Tell me about your mindset through all of this. I mean, obviously you've talked about the frustration, but what you had, and I know you've done a lot of life coaching too. What did you say to yourself to coach yourself through this? And what would you say to other people that are?
Oh gosh, I'm a bad example of that,
No, you are a human. That's what this show is about. Yes, the vulnerability, but the relatability. I mean, that's great to admit.
I mean, during the process, like I said, I was bitter. I was angry. I was hateful to my husband. I think the part that people forget when you have a chronic illness is that the spouse also suffers. He wrote a chapter in a book because I did a passion project with a bunch of different stories of people with Lyme disease and caregivers and whatever. And some of the things that he wrote in there, I never knew. He would ask, where has my wife gone? And when do I get her back? And, stuff like that. That's not the woman that he married. I was always very energetic, thriving, doing all sorts of stuff. Like I said, I was Superwoman, and that's who he married. And then all of a sudden, here I am in bed, 16, 18 hour a day. I can't even finish making dinner. And he's just like, when am I going to get her back? And all we did was argue. And I had to ask his permission. I'm just like, I don't want to make you sound bad or, whatever, but can I share what happened and how we were and things like that? Because chronic illness is very hard on a marriage. And we would yell at each other, and he would get upset. And I had these visions of honestly taking all his clothes and throwing them out the second story window and having him come home and all his
reality. It's real life. It's real life going on.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to do most days. I was like, I can't stand you. I don't like you. You're not helping me. And I couldn't understand why he didn't understand. But I also didn't understand until later how much pain he was going through as well. I was so concerned and consumed with myself. And I kept saying, well, I'm the patient. I'm the one that's suffering. I'm the, whatever, not understanding what was going on with him and really not caring at that time what was going on with him. Because I was so into what was going on with me.
It's a very human response. And you were probably, obviously you were projecting the pain that you were feeling physically onto somebody that loves you. And that's very, very relatable. I think most people watching this they've done something like that. We all do that because that's just what you're feeling. Sometimes it's hard in that moment to see the other side and to be calm and patient. Yeah.
They're the easiest target. They're right there, and you figure they're not going anywhere either. And you can do whatever you want. And that's really not true. You shouldn't do that. But hey, like you said, we're human.
Right.
So it really wasn't until I became that master herbalist and I thought, you know what, I'm starting to feel better. Let me go help some other people. Let me become a wellness coach and do all that stuff, that I got into a certification program as well. So after my master herbalist diploma, I went and got certified in life coaching and business coaching. And it was through that program that I finally saw some of the things that I had been doing, started questioning my own mindset, understanding that there is a connection with your mind and your body, and knowing that I had to believe as well that I could be healed, that I had to believe that it was possible. And because the amount of anger and bitterness that I had and was holding inside myself was also causing physical symptoms. And so I realized during that certification program, which lasted a year, some of the things that I had been doing, things from the past that I had been holding on to, childhood stuff, just all of it.
Yes. It's, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're mentioning all this. This is so key.
And I truly believe that some of the things that happened back then in terms of trauma through childhood and stuff primed me to be susceptible to Lyme disease and having chronic Lyme disease, because some people will get Lyme disease and they figure they got the flu or whatever. They don't even know they had it, and their body has a great immune system, whatever, and they can fight it off and they're fine, because you can do blood tests on most people and they've been exposed to Lyme disease. And then there are those of us who just really, it just takes us down completely. I had a chronic exposure to mold in my homes as well. So I had, what's that called? Sick building syndrome on top of it. And so it was like, which one came first? Was it the sick building syndrome and then Lyme was able to take a hold, or was it Lyme and then sick building syndrome made it worse? We don't know which way it went. But then you add all of those things together and you've got the perfect, the perfect environment for stuff like this to just take over.
I love that you're talking about this, because there is so much more to it. And we both know as coaches, there's a value in mindset coaching, mindset shifting. And I know personally for me as a fellow human being, it's where I used to push that away. Like, no, that is something that it can't possibly be affecting me. But then you find your body starts acting like the whack-a-mole game. There's a twitch here and a pain here, and it shows up and you can't escape it. And I love that you're focusing on that, because it's so true to do that inner work. I just a couple weeks ago, I was talking to my guest, Darren Streblow. We were talking about this, and I've had other chats about anxiety and depression. And obviously it's important to seek treatment for those, but there are so many cases where we're experiencing what I call trapped trauma. It has to go somewhere. And it took me a long time to wrap my head around that and to even discuss it. And then I went through, you learn when you go through coaching training and all the work that you do, okay, there's something to this. So I'm so glad that you're focusing on that. And Vickie, I am so thankful that you're being so real about your relationship with your hubby. And I'm so thankful that he was okay with you sharing that, because it's important. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are watching or going to be watching the replay, that they may be the patient, the person going through the chronic illness, but there's a lot of people that are going to be watching that are frustrated and angry at their spouse that is going through the chronic illness, and they've lost their patience. They don't know what to do. And so your husband, he just kept hanging on and trying his best to understand, I'm sure, right? And I know it wasn't an easy road, but what would you say? I know you can't speak for him, but what would you say he would say to those spouses that are in his shoes?
Oh boy. I think he would probably say she doesn't, or he doesn't really mean it. I think it was so hard, because he didn't grow up in a family where they yelled a lot. Now I did, so being upset and angry and like spilling it out was pretty normal, in my household, but for his, it wasn't. So he's looking at me like, who is this woman who has grown, like devil horns, and what is going on with her, and why is she always lashing out, and why is it always my fault, and things like that. And I think he eventually came to realize that it wasn't always me speaking, it was the pain that was speaking, the body pain that was speaking, because when you have that chronic pain going on, or like if you can't sleep, because sleep was a big deal as well, I wasn't sleeping well. When you don't have those things, like it comes out in other ways. Right. It hurts so much that you're just frustrated with everybody. Everything is on a short string, like it's just hard to deal with life. And I think he would really say that, you have to keep the hope that it is going to get better, that you can work through this. He now says that he's really happy that I'm able to go travel and do all these things. And he never thought he'd see this woman back again. And even though he says back again, I am a different person than I was beforehand. What
an appreciation you must both have to be somewhat on the other side of this, and just the gratitude. What a journey. I want to play this video that you shared with me. It's so great. So I'll run this, and then I'll talk to you again in just a second.
Okay.
When that doctor told me that my life was destined to be 16 to 18 hours in bed every day for the rest of my life, I really thought that I had No more use for fancy clothes, nice shoes. And I actually started going to garage sales for all my stuff because I didn't think that somebody who was laying in bed was worth more than 25 cents or 50 cent stuff. Plus I had vertigo and I couldn't balance, so I ended up getting rid of all of my heels, all of my fancy clothes. And what happened was, as I got better, I thought, wait a minute, what if I could walk in those heels again? What if I could actually stand on stage in my heels again? What if I could actually travel again? What would life be like? My first pair of heels, as I got better, was a pair of black pumps, which I actually never wore because plain black pumps are just not me. And they still sit in my closet. They're brand new. And I eventually just started buying more and more. My family was like, are you gonna kill yourself in those? But now I'm known for my cool heels. In fact, when I'm introduced, people always say, like the person who's introducing me says, and check out her heels. Don't forget to check out her heels. So it's kind of expected that I show up in pretty cool heels. And I love that because for me, it means that I have kicked my chronic Lyme disease, that I've taken my life back, that I've declared to the world that I am not going down without a fight, and that I'm here, that I have meaning, that there's something that I can deliver to the world. And I know for every single one of my clients, it's the same. They're here for a reason. Their stories meant to be shared. Their books are meant to be out there. We are meant to cross paths. I don't believe that we cross paths for no uncertain reason. Cross paths for a reason. And that reason is so that we can pour into each other's lives. And that's what my heels are all about.
I love that video. Vickie, it was so divine the way we met. I stumbled on a video that you were doing, and you were sitting in front of a bookshelf, and I was listening, of course, to what you were saying. It was very powerful. But behind you, you had all these high heels, and I thought, oh, that's cool. She likes heels. I didn't know. I did not realize your story with high heels. And then I would see you doing Facebook Lives with your heels, and oh, I love it. And I love that you said in the video that they started to, the audiences kind of expected that you would be wearing heels. So I have to ask you, are you wearing heels right now in honor of this this conversation that we're having?
Just for you, yes.
Yeah, let me see. What do you have on?
Okay. Can you see? Okay, I gotta figure out where the camera.
Oh, those are good. Oh my gosh, those are beautiful.
Okay.
Look, oh, girl, listen.
Those we were in person.
I know. Next time we meet, let's wear heels. Let me see. I'm going to try to do this. Look, I wore them in honor of you. Oh my gosh, I got to climb up here. I haven't worn heels in forever.
Oh, I love them sparkling.
Oh my gosh.
Right, I had to take them off because you can't see that.
I'm going to do the same. Oh, look at those. Look at that. Here we go. Hold it up.
Yay.
I love it. Look, the back of my leg just cramped up and I almost fell. During this pandemic, I've had flip-flops and probably Crocs. I don't know. I haven't worn too many things that are fancy. And girl, you touched my heart because I love heels. I love them, and I just love what they mean to you. That it's a symbol of a celebration that you can overcome, and I love. Tell us a little bit more about your heels and delve into that a little bit more and what they mean to you.
Yeah, so I got rid of all of them because I was like, what is the purpose? They're just taking up space. I'm never going to be able to use these. And, I held on for quite a while. I was like, yes, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better. So It was kind of, that symbol of, I give up. Yep. It's not going to get better. I have to really accept this. Let's just get rid of it. And like the video said, I bought all my clothes for years from garage sales, 25 cents. Like if they had 25 cent sign. I was all over it, man.
Your worthiness went in the tank, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. Although I do love a good deal, and I did find some cool stuff. It wasn't all bad. Some people sell their stuff for 25 cents that should be worth a lot more.
Well, I'm a thrift shopping girl. I love it. But for you, you were attaching your worthiness.
Yeah.
That is such a powerful admission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when I started to go out, so the very first event I went to was in California. I was in LA, and it was with the certification program that I was going through at the time. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I don't know if I can get there. I'm not sure if I can travel alone. I'm like, nobody's here to carry my bags. My husband's not good. Like, I'm all by myself. Nobody's going to understand if I need help, because here's the other thing is nobody thought I looked sick. Mm-hmm. All of my friends at church were like, oh, you look fine, and we didn't even touch upon that. But, it was hard because I kept getting asked to do things. I'm like, I just can't. And because I looked good, they thought that I was fine or exaggerating so I feel like there weren't very many people at church that really truly believed that I was sick. But also, when you have a chronic illness, you save it up and you go out, because you know that you're going to be okay for that hour, and then you go back home and you crash for a while. Yeah. So when I went to that first event, I was like, who knows how long I'm going to last before I have to crash. Right. And then I lasted the whole event, and I was like, hallelujah. Oh my gosh. Yes. I really have made it. But even for that event, I didn't go out and buy new clothes. I went to the thrift store and I bought stuff that was probably, 2 or 3 seasons old and whatever. And, $3, $5 was a lot to spend on a dress, because I did not know if I was going to make it through.
Right.
So yeah, it was a pivotal point, I think, that particular trip, because it showed me that I could. Mm-hmm. And that I would be able to make it. And it felt like I had turned the corner, and that was the test.
Mm-hmm. So, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yes, thrift stores this shirt is actually from a thrift store. I think it was like a $1 or $2 shirt, and I make bad choices sometimes. It doesn't fit real well. That's why it's not, but it was such a good deal. I have to get better at my decision making, but it is, I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Vickie, I'm so excited to jump into the next part of what we're going to talk about. I see here, first of all, my friend, fellow comedian, he's from LA, Robert G. Lee. He is actually my guest next week, and he is up early. Robert, you are up early watching us here live, but I'm really excited that he's on, because his book is coming out, and we're going to be talking about it next week. I am so excited to bring him on. But I loved in your video that you said you want your clients and the people that you're working with that are writing the books, the authors, you want everybody to know that their story has meaning and their story is meant to be shared. Girl, I am 100% passionate about that.
Yeah.
You tell everybody about what you do to help authors. I mean, you are the author of 10 international best-selling books, and two of them are Easy Rider and Standing in the Gap. Yep. Tell us how that started for you and what you're doing with your clients. I see you all the time. It's powerful.
It's funny because you know how I said I thought that I had gone through the journey because God was sending me to the chronic illness community to save them. I had this whole idea that was what it was. I'm like, okay, I nailed it. I understand why I went through this. Got it. I was all like, yep. And that wasn't it.
Okay, well, I went down that road. It's kind of also like whack-a-mole. I'll just keep trying until
and I ended up, the whole wellness coaching thing. I really have always had a love of marketing. Mm-hmm. When I was in junior high, I wanted to have an advertising agency. Back in elementary school, I read the whole entire library. My mom was like, if you want to learn to do something, all you need to do is be able to read. So you need to be able to read. My mom and dad are immigrants. So they really instilled this, like, you can do anything, but you have to be educated. You need to be able to read, and you can, so if you knew me back then, it wouldn't be a surprise what I do. But then if you had known me after college, it's kind of a surprise what I do. So it's kind of interesting how that all worked out. But I started getting these inquiries about like, how did you write your book? How did you do that? Because while I was a master herbalist, I had 2 books come out. And I thought, you know what, I just want to help people with their stories. I realized that the reason why I was given that story of struggle was because that story helped other people. And my mission was to show other people that their struggles and their journeys had meaning. And it wasn't just meaning for them. And it wasn't a story that's like just meant to be hidden in your heart. You're meant to share that story. And like in the video says, you know, we don't cross paths for any unknown reason. Like we might not know, but God knows why you and I cross paths.
Right.
You know, God knows why certain people were put in our lives, or that we meet them, even if it's for a short time. And so people started asking me, well, how did you get your book out? How did you start, you know, getting your following and all that? I'm like, it all has to do with the story. All I'm doing is sharing my story of everything that I've done, my journey, how I got better, and all that stuff. And people started saying, well, help me with mine. Help me with mine. And then it turned into help me with mine in my book. And that's how it kind of, you know, it got started. And it's interesting because my husband will say, I never would have thought you would have done this. You know,
there's a road we're traveling. It's all leading somewhere. It's not obvious at some points.
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes clear.
And so these journeys that people have, I get to help them make meaning out of them. Most of my clients will say, you know, if I can help just one person, and then I say, yep, we're going to take a stand for the and you're going to help that one person, and you're going to go out and help a whole lot of other people. You know, I think we all have a part of us that wants to leave a legacy, that wants to make sure we made a mark before we're gone. And I think this is a big part of it. Like if you look at history, right, everything's a story. And we learn from those stories. Those who don't learn from history are destined to repeat it, right? So we have the stories within us so that we can share them with other people. And not everybody has the calling, and the purpose and the mission that they had that story put in their heart, in their life to do this. So if you are somebody who has a story that's like, oh my gosh, I really need to share this, I know it's going to help so many people, or if somebody's told you that, just know that you're chosen, you're special. Right. Because not everybody wants to write a book. Not everybody has a story to share.
There are a lot of people, though, that do want to write that when they know they do want to write a book, or they're being called to write a book, they don't know where to begin. What would your advice be? I know, wait, before you answer that question, would you tell everybody, before I forget, where they can find you in case they want some coaching on writing a book?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So on Facebook, just make sure you type my name in right, spell it right. I'm on Facebook way more than I should admit that I'm on Facebook. So that's probably the easiest place. Friend me, message me, something like that. My website is vickiegould.com, but my publishing house is morningoakpublishing.com. So either place you can find information about where you might want to start. I have a Facebook group called Write Your Biz Book, where, you know, we do different videos. I do coaching sometimes. I have mini courses and stuff like that. So lots of different places if you want to start.
You are great about posting. You are, and you give a lot of helpful tips. That's how I stumbled on you. You showed up on my feed. We connected as friends because we had mutual friends it was interesting because it was all friends in different parts of the country. No, not just the country. It was interesting. Our friend group was very varied.
Diverse.
Diverse. And so you do a lot of helpful tips. So then what would you suggest? What would you say to somebody that does not know where to begin? Maybe they have such a download of so many things. What do they do? What would you say?
Yeah, get clear. You have to get clear. Now, I specialize in helping entrepreneurs write business books, nonfiction business books that share their story and also share, some sort of teaching thing that they want out there, something that they're usually known for, a process or such. So our books are meant to help them grow their reach, create that impact, and help them get on stage, or, get doors of opportunities to open, or turn those readers into paying clients, is what I say. Turn the readers into clients while they sleep. So that's usually the type of book that we're looking at. A lot of people will start with, I'm just going to write a memoir. And if you're an entrepreneur, that's one of the biggest mistakes. That actually was my post yesterday, was the number one enemy to your business book being a success is writing a memoir, because nobody cares about our memoir. They want a story that they can relate to. Yes, it's about you, but it has to be about them. And then how do they apply that? And what did you learn? And what can they take away? So the clarity that you want to get if you're writing this type of book is what is the transformation that you want for the reader from point A to point B. Once you get really clear about that and what it's going to do for you and your business and where you want it to fall inside your business, then I always say the book kind of falls out of your head at that point. There's no such thing as writer's block. It's just clarity block. And then sometimes we try so hard to get the words out, and we're just trying so hard. I call that word constipation. It's not really writer's block. It's just word constipation if you're clear. And sometimes you just have to go do something else, clear your head. I truly believe that God gives us divine downloads. If you just ask, what do people need to hear from me? You will be told what it is.
You have to have the ears to hear that and the eyes to see, because I love that you said that. That is the word I use. Downloads. When it's clear, it's like almost like a list. Boom, 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 boom. When I ask and I'm willing to see it, it is a download of information. I don't even have to think of it. It's like, it's often things I didn't think of. So then I start questioning myself. Well, but then when I go for that, it's easy breezy. There's no pain in it. That is so true. What would you say when somebody has a block like that? Would you advise them to speak it out? I know, obviously, pray and listen for that divine notion. But then, other than that, to get it out on paper, what do you recommend once they get the download?
It's funny that people think that there's always this magic thing, or what. I think it's more about your mindset, more about letting go of perfection, letting the questions of the what if questions out of your head, because a lot of people don't write because they go, what if the story doesn't sound good? What if people make fun of me? What if I can't sell this book? What if, and they're so concerned with the what ifs, they block themselves from the actual writing and what could be a completely magical moment, because they're so concerned with the future. And I think it really comes down to, you decide that you're going to write this book to help people. And when you decide, all the hows and all the downloads and all the, oh my gosh, inspired actions that you would take, those things will come. And I love how you said, sometimes it's a surprise, what comes out when you allow it to just flow. And I think that just is a testament to, we need to make the decision first. And you need to commit to that decision that you're going to write this book, that it is going to help the people. And it's not a question of what if. You just decide that it is going to help people, that it is going to grow your business, that it is going to all of those things. And then the how completely fixes itself. Because you're committed to that outcome. And if you're committed to that outcome, then it's going to happen. It's already it's already coming to you. God is already delivering it to you.
I love that. That is so true. It's our job to plant the seed. God waters it, does the rest, and we can overthink it so easily, and then may not end up not doing it. And that is such great advice. I love all of that. To just my husband David say clarity block. Word quotation. He's quoting you. Who else is here is my friend June Colson. She was just on with me last week, and her book is coming out. It's called Surely God You Hear Me, and I loved listening to her journey. It's a lot of what you were talking about in the beginning. A lot of doubt, like me. And that's a lot of what her book is about, is sharing her faith journey and the stories that happened. But her advice, we were talking about her book, and one of the things she said, it was such a great reminder, is, I know everybody operates differently, but she would get up, her book is done now, but she would get up in the morning and not even get out of bed, just start writing or working on her computer, because then she would lose focus. And I just told my husband, I have to remember to go back and do that. Did I do it today? No. I wanted to, but I need to do that. I find that's where my creativity is right first thing in the morning. Other than that, I'm off with my day. Have you found
why that is? It's because your subconscious is waking up and it's not fully awake yet. And we operate based on our subconscious thoughts and beliefs and things like that. So a lot of times things flow to us very easily right before we're fully awake. That's why affirmations at that time work really well. We get the best ideas as we're floating off to sleep. I'm always talking about it's the most inopportune moments, and I'll be floating off to sleep and I'm like writing this whole entire story out, and it comes out so eloquently and wonderfully. And then the next day I sit down to write, and I'm like, how did I say that? What was that I said? And it's like, crap. So
what I'm hearing is I'm feeling this metaphor is that our subconscious, all those limited beliefs, they have the same schedule as teenagers. Maybe they don't get up a little bit later, and we have to capture that the goodness of our that subconscious, that creativity in us. And that is, I'm kidding about that, but that is so true, because it is there. And I tell David's watching right now, he just made another comment. He knows, I tell him all the time, I feel so bad because we try to have coffee every single day. We try, but I feel so bad because there's that time in the morning I'm like, babe, I've got to use this because then it's gone. And I know, maybe that is a mindset, but it just, we get so caught up in our day and other things and other people. And
all of a sudden your to-do list is like infringing on your ideas, and you're thinking about, what do I have to make for dinner? And did I cross the chicken and all of that stuff.
Trust in the divine download. I love that, because it's one of the downloads God gave me years ago. We were in northern Michigan, and it was a long story, of course, with the story, but it was just, the outcome was I was given this phrase, sit back, relax, and remember. And it's funny, I didn't even expect to talk about that, but this morning that notion popped in my head. But what I told myself is, Marlo, what you're hearing there, what you need to pay close attention to is the word relax. Sit back, relax, and remember. Remember the things that he's putting on your heart, but relax. And I just always said it as one phrase, but relax.
Because I love that you're talking about that. Because I think we put so much pressure on ourselves, whether we're writing a book or anything else. We put so much pressure on ourselves. We have an idea of how it's supposed to look. They've got this glorified idea of, if you're an author, you sit down and all these juices flow and you're typing and it's just so glorious. And you have this little cup of coffee and you're sipping it and it's just flowing out of you. And, and that's not always how it goes. And then we get into the perfectionism of how the words need to come out or what I'm saying. And we get so consumed with that. And that comes from ego. Am I enough? Is this going to be good enough? And it's already, you got to understand that you're already enough. God made us enough.
It's true. And that, number one place to start. I absolutely, even if you fake it to make that true, just believe it just have blind faith in that. That is true, Vickie. That is so, so true. Somebody said they must be watching from my Reveal to Heal page, because when they're coming in from another page, I can't see their name, but they said, is there a page count that works best? And by the way, everybody, if we're talking to an expert here. So if you have questions, put them in and I'll share them with Vickie. But that's a question I've had. I heard 40,000 words.
I love this question. This is one of my favorite questions in the whole wide world. How many pages? However many.
Or word count.
However many words and however many pages it takes to fulfill the transformation of the purpose of your book. So I think, again, we get concerned with it has to be X number of words before it's good.
Right.
And you get to decide what makes it good. You get to decide how much is enough. You get to decide. Now, we tend to overstuff it because we're like, oh, we got to put all this value, and then we overstuff it. It becomes a brain dump and it's overwhelming. So there's a point where it's actually too much, but I always refer to this book. It's called U Squared. I don't know if it's called U2 or U Squared. It's U and then the 2 is, up in the top. It's a short book. It's so short. It doesn't even have a spine. It's just stapled together. It's an amazing book and great mindset book. When I was in the certification program, that is what she had in the required reading. Amazing book. It is not long at all. Do we really need to have a book that's long to be impactful? That's a fallacy. Whatever you decided you were taking the person through in the journey from point A to point B, however many words it takes, that's how many words it takes. And here's another thing that came up when you were talking is remember that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person and you can't say the right thing to the wrong person.
Wow. Did you guys hear that? I'm going to quote you on that. That's good.
There are some people that are going to hate your book. That's just reality.
Right. Know it going in. You take the power away from that immediately when you just tell the truth about that.
I had one of the worst reviews on my first book. It said something to the effect of, this is the ramblings of somebody who couldn't get her thoughts together. At the time, I had no idea that there was such a thing as a troll, because I was just, on the scene. And so it stabbed me in the heart. And I was like, crap, wow, I do suck. And this really is bad. And it negated the 15 other people who had already told me that the book was helpful. It was so good for them that they really appreciated my journey, and everything that I told them. And I came to realize that some people are going to happen upon your book. Maybe they read it, maybe they don't, maybe it's a troll, maybe it's not, whatever, but it's not for everybody, just like we're not for everybody. There are people out there, Marlo, that don't like me. Can you believe that?
What? No, they haven't seen your heels. They haven't seen your heart. What?
That's just the way it is. And there are people out there that I don't like.
I love that quote. I didn't know that there were trolls. I'm telling you, Vickie, I have so many friends in the comedy arena, speaking arena, where people would show up online and just lambaste them. And it was like, thank goodness they learned, okay, there's that group of people that they're going to do that. That's what they're doing. And so, what we fear, we draw near. I love how you were admitting that you hung on to that one person and it negated all the good. And when we do that, it's just, it could be human nature. But when we hear somebody like you sharing this, it's so powerful to remind ourselves that, that we're going to have that.
Yeah. I use that screenshot now of that review. Who knew 4 years later I would be screenshotting this as an example of, guess what, guys?
It's powerful.
This is what happens when you write a book. Yep.
Thank you for that transparency. Thank you. Thank you. And I love what you're talking about with the word count, because I keep looking at my computer like word count. And I absolutely love what you're saying, because I feel the same thing for me and my attention, the way it goes. I am often drawn to books where I love the title. I love what I know it's going to say because I've read the back, but I know it's not long. I have a stack of books on my nightstand all the time that I'm like, oh, I'm going to read those. But the shorter books, I have more hope. But there's something for everybody. I have friends that have written really long books. I have a friend who lost her daughter in a car accident, and she needed a book to let her know that she was going to be okay. And she searched and searched. All the books were really long. And when I talked to her about the length of her book, she said her publisher kept insisting it needed to be longer. Like you said, sometimes we want to boil the ocean. And she said, no, she insisted this book is not going to be long, because when I was going through this, I needed a book that was going to quickly tell me I'm going to survive this.
Right.
And that's why her book is the length that it is. And I love her for that. And that speaks to me, because one of the reasons it stopped me with my book for a long time is, it's going to be forever to have hundreds of thousands, whatever word count. I don't know. So how do you know when to stop? How do you know when to stop?
Well, you got to make sure that you are delivering on the promise of that book that you decided, that clarity that you had in the beginning. That is how and when you know that you need to stop. And really, people are like, well, the whole question of, is it too long? Is it too short, or whatever? It's like, content is never too long. It's only too boring. Content's never too short, only not impactful enough. So if you keep those two things in mind, then if you aim for that thing that you said you were going to do when you started writing the book, then you don't have to worry about, oh, is this enough, or is this too short, or is that, and those questions all kind of go away. I think we're frozen.
Hey, Vicki, can you see me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, well, we're back. We're live. So what I'll do is I'll edit this. I'll edit out that gap. We lost connection somehow.
Okay.
But what I was asking you, and then we'll wrap up here too.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you, how do you know when your book is done?
Yeah. So I had such a glorious answer for that.
Let's hear it, girl. Let's hear it. Nothing's gonna stop us.
Oh my God. So, again, we tend to obsess about it has to be a certain length or whatever. And if you're clear about what it is that you were delivering in the first place, then you kind of you'll know when you're done. And the thing about content is that content is never too long. It's only too boring. As long as you capture somebody's attention and you keep them reading and flipping pages, it's good, right? And content is never too short. It's only too uneventful, unimpactful. Like, it's not hitting the mark. So if it's short and you don't hit the mark, then it's meaningless. If it's long and you ramble and you're boring, then you're going to lose people and they're not going to finish the book. So it's a balance between the two of be interesting, be impactful, be transformational, be useful to the person. It's not all about you, it's about them,
Yeah, that's the key. That is the key.
Yeah.
It is about the audience, even if it's the short stories or a fiction. Well, yeah, even telling the short stories, if it's the short stories of our life or the things that have happened, it's to put the focus on the reader and how it affects them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we can obsess about how we need to say it. How is the right way? The right way is how you say it. The right way is your personality. The right way is making sure that when somebody meets you, they don't go, wait, you don't sound like your book.
Right.
As soon as there's a disconnect, like in marketing, if there's a disconnect on who you are in the book and who you are in person, or who you are in social media, or who you are in video, right? A confused buyer doesn't buy.
Right.
And then they also don't trust. Right. So if I met you after this and you weren't the same person that you were on, I'd be like, well, she's a fake. She's a fraud. Now I don't trust you anymore.
Right.
You need to insert your personality into the book and not be afraid of that. I've had clients be like, well, I need to sound smarter. Well, I need to sound this. No, you need to sound like you. That's who you need to sound like. And then clients who have obsessed about let me rearrange the sentence because if I do it a different way, it's better, but the sentence has the same meaning. So if the sentence says, now you can XYZ, it's the same as you can now XYZ. It's the same thing. It doesn't change the experience in the book for the reader. And that's what I say. The book needs to be an experience, right? They're buying the book for a reason, just like, Disney sells tickets. So we're buying tickets from Disney, but what are we actually getting from Disney? Is an experience. Their app says Disney experience. Everything's about, family and memories and all that stuff. So when you're selling a book, you're also selling an experience, a transformation, something like that. It's not just a nice read. It's not just a memoir. It's, and I got to say a caveat there. I don't mean to make you wrong if you want a memoir. There are plenty of places and it is a genre, but if you're an entrepreneur and you want to use your book to grow your business, it needs to be more than just a memoir.
Right.
So I don't want people to walk away thinking, oh my gosh, she hates memoirs. That's not it. It's just in terms of business. That's the direction that I usually, we focus on.
And then would you say if it's a business book, there's stories that, including the stories, but the stories that have a point that line up with the thread, the meaning of the book.
Absolutely.
Those are probably pretty helpful, but you're saying to focus on the intention of the book first, the meaning.
Exactly. Because
with support stories.
Yes. So if you know the intention and the transformation that you're giving somebody, the stories just come. Like people will say, I have a zillion stories. They don't all go together and I don't know where to start. And Again, it goes to the clarity. What's the transformation you want to give people?
Right.
And then the stories will line up with the points that you're making inside the book.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, this is so loaded. We could talk about so much. A couple of other questions that have come in. I know I've planned on leaning towards self-publishing just because of the focus of my book. It's not something where I felt like I needed to go to a publisher. It's something I want to put out there. I want to have it as an accent piece to what I'm doing. I hadn't really thought of going with a publisher, but what is your advice with, David asked, ever use Amazon self-publishing? Any other self-publishers that you recommend? And what's, the difference? Would you recommend between self-publishing and putting it out there for bids with the publisher?
Mm-hmm. Well, I recommend me. So there's that. So yeah, I opened
up the publishing end.
I do. So I opened a publishing house in August called Morning Oak Publishing.
Okay, right.
And so, yes, I help people to self-publish, but I also can help people to publish their own books. What is a little bit different when you look at all the different types of publishers out there, there's like, you can purely self-publish, do it all on your own type of thing. There are people like me who will help people to write their book, self-publish it, get it to bestseller, and help you market it, all of that whole thing. And then there are companies where are kind of like a hybrid. So they may not help you write the book, but they'll publish it for you for a fee. And then there are what most people think are like traditional publishers, right? They'll put them in that category where they'll try to shop the book and then see if they can get somebody to buy the manuscript.
Right.
That takes a lot of time because I've had friends who, like, before they knew me type of thing, they had gone with a publisher. And some of those take 2 years to publish, some of them more. I'm sure there are a few that might be a little bit less. But if you're in business, you don't have a year and a half to wait for somebody to publish your book. So the timeline does matter when you're asking those types of questions where, it does sound nice sometimes, but you're missing out on income and missing out on impact when you don't get your book out faster. So yeah, I help people self-publish. They can publish through me, and then we launch it to bestseller. I have like 107 best-selling authors. They get to bestseller within 24 hours. My 107th just happened on the 11th, and she used my double bestseller implementation plan, and so she became a double bestseller on that day within 24 hours. She had 2 books that we were.
Congratulations on all that success. You are changing lives. You're giving them your clients the confidence, the know-how. You do it all. You guys, if you are considering writing a book, if you're stuck in that overwhelm, contact Vickie. You can see her name and how it's spelled there. Find her on Facebook. Reach out because you are brilliant. And I love every time you do a Facebook Live and you are doing a unboxing. Is that what it's called? You're showing your client's book. It's so rewarding. That was one of the first videos that I watched you do, and it's really exciting to see. And your work, it just must just feel so rewarding.
It is. It feels really good. I get the ripple effect of all of them going out and impacting other people's lives. It's really great to watch.
Well, Vickie, thank you so much. You have been just so inspirational. You've given people so much hope in the arena of chronic disease and walking through that, and then also with what you're an expert at in publishing and writing books. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on. It was really fun.
Okay, well, you can find Vickie on Facebook, and Vickie, go ahead and put your links in the comments so that people can be sure they know exactly how to find you.
Okay.
Okay, well, stay there. I'm going to go off of here. I'm going to sign off, and then I'm going to pop back on my computer and talk to you for a minute.
Okay.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, actually, no, I don't know how to take you out because I'm on my phone. So we'll just stay with that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I know that you've, there we go. I'm sure that you've received so much hope and inspiration from talking to Vickie. So reach out to her. She is just a powerhouse of information. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Next week, I'll have Robert G. Lee. He'll be joining me. He'll be up bright and early joining us from Los Angeles, and we're going to be talking about his book coming out and so much more. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us. Have a great week.